If we continue to do the same things and think in the same ways, then we will continue to stay where we are now. Let me show you how to change that. Hi friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Brianna, and around here we chat everything self-improvement, wellness, and how to live your best life. So if that is something you are looking to do, you should subscribe and stick around. Today we're going to chat about neuroplasticity, or how your brain can rewire itself to help you change your habits and your mindset. Understanding this concept helped me make so many changes in my own life. So today I want to share a little bit of the science as well as some super practical tips that will help you as well. Changing my understanding of thoughts and learning about neuroplasticity has been one of the most empowering things that I have experienced in my life so far. So neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to change and adapt neural networks, or essentially rewire, to change how you think and function. The more you think and do something, the more you strengthen that pathway in your brain, and the vice versa is true, where the less you think or do something, you weaken that connection. So your current patterns, which when I say patterns, that's essentially your habits, your decisions, your behaviors, your thoughts, are really just strong connections in your brain. And where the rewiring comes in is we can work to weaken the patterns that we don't really want to have anymore, and work to strengthen patterns that we do want to have. So the way I like to think about neuroplasticity is I like to envision a big field of grass with a well-defined dirt road. And that dirt road is your typical patterns and behaviors, what your brain is used to, what it knows best. But then one day you decide you don't want to take that familiar dirt road. You want to start paving a new path for yourself, and you just go through the grass. It's bumpy, it's unknown, it's a little bit harder to get through, but it's something new that you are creating for yourself. And over time, as you continue to take that path through the grass, and you no longer take that familiar dirt road, the path through the grass starts to become a very well-defined path. And as you haven't been taking the old dirt road, grass has started to grow, and eventually that path is no longer defined, and you've completely changed your go-to path. So to make that a little bit more tangible, think about, let's say in the morning, your go-to response when you wake up is to grab your phone and start scrolling. That is currently your dirt road. But you've decided you don't really want to do that anymore, and you want to start doing something else when you wake up. You don't want to scroll on your phone. So you've decided that you want to pick up a book and read just a couple pages instead of going on the internet and saying a bunch of random stuff first thing when you wake up. Picking up the book in the morning instead of your phone is like walking through the grass. Right now, that is a super weak neural connection in your brain because it's not what you usually do. Whereas picking up your phone is like the dirt path that is super strong because you do it so much. But over time, as you continue to pick up the book instead of your phone, that connection gets stronger and stronger. So that's more of a behavioral example, but the same is true for your thoughts, right? We can have thought habits and we can change those too. I really believe that one of the most beneficial aspects of knowing about neuroplasticity is knowing that you can change. You can change how you think, you can change how you respond and react, you can change how you show up in the world. You can change your patterns and behaviors. And that is just so cool in my opinion. Just to know, like, we are not stuck as who we are. We are not stuck as who we have been. Just because we have been a certain way for who knows how many years doesn't mean that that's who we have to continue to be. So something to know about the brain, and the reason I am making this video is because I truly believe that better understanding how our brains work helps us have a better understanding of ourselves and help us not make so many judgments and just understand like our brain is just being a brain, and understanding how we can work with that, which I personally believe is just so empowering. But something to know about the brain is that the brain will fight so hard to stay the same. The brain wants safety and security. The brain wants what's known and familiar. So to make a change, we have to bring more attention to the thing that we want to change. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to live based on what our patterns have been, or reacting to our environment or the circumstances around us. So we have to put attention on what we want to change. We have to blunt that pattern, and then we can use repetition to help strengthen those patterns that align with the person that we want to be and the type of life that we want to create. So attention, interrupting the old pattern, and repetition of the new pattern. So for example, let's say every time you come home from work, you go and you grab a bag of chips. Now what has happened is that you coming home is now a cue or trigger for your brain to either want or go ahead and just go grab some chips. If you decide this is a habit that you want to break, You have to be able to keep this top of mind. It has to seem important enough to your brain to actually remember to do something different. You have to find a way to interrupt this habit, basically just, doing something other than going and grabbing the chips when you get home. And then you have to repeatedly do something different until something else becomes your norm. Or let's say right now when you look at yourself in the mirror, your typical go-to is to start picking yourself apart, but you've decided this is something that you want to change. Obviously, working on your relationship with yourself will be really helpful here. But again, you want to keep this goal of changing this pattern top of mind. Then you want to interrupt this pattern by either stopping those thoughts and choosing to compliment yourself instead, or shifting your focus to something else. Basically, not letting your brain go down its typical thought spiral, and then do that again and again until this becomes more of your go-to. Now, everything is a little bit different. Everything comes with its own nuances and other factors are involved. So some things are fairly easy to change and some things require a little bit more work, a little bit more time and repetition. But this is the general idea. Now, know that new thought patterns and habits usually do not feel very natural at first. Your brain is designed to conserve energy, so it is going to opt for those well-worn pathways. But as you practice those new thoughts and actions over time, they can feel much more natural and can even become more automatic. Hopefully what I mentioned earlier with interrupting patterns made sense, but I want to dig into it just a little bit deeper. There are a few tactics that you can use to help yourself out with this and just play around with to help you make those changes. So essentially, if typically when A happens, you do B, that's your typical pattern, and we want to find a way to interrupt that. I personally have found that one of the most useful ways to do that is to turn A into a cue for your brain to do something else. So with the example of when you come home, your brain automatically wants to go eat some chips, that would look like coming up with what you would want to do instead of eating chips. And then when you notice your brain having that urge to go grab chips, that now serves as a reminder to your brain to go do whatever that other thing was, to take that path through the grass instead of your normal dirt road. When you notice the urge or the pattern starting to play out, you can pause and then choose to do something different. And again, it's even that much more helpful when you have a plan in place for here's what I want to replace it with, here's what I want to do instead. It definitely depends on the context of the situation, but sometimes it can be super helpful to change the environment or change the situation in some way so that it gets you to do something different. It can also be really helpful to create some space between the trigger or cue and, whatever you normally do. And that can look like taking a couple big deep breaths. Or in the chip example, instead of grabbing the chips as soon as you get home, you make yourself wait 20 to 30 minutes. It's also incredibly helpful to set up reminders for yourself in some kind of way. I mean, in today's day and age, our brain is distracted by so many things. And it can be so easy to just fall into our typical patterns, Let's say when you get home from work, you are super stressed out, you're thinking about something that happened at work or all the things that you feel like you still need to do. So you're not pausing to think about, what you're doing. So you just go and automatically grab the chips. So it's helpful to find ways to help keep it top of mind, whether that's, a daily reflection of some sort or a daily reminder, or even setting up reminders in the form of alarms or something that pops up on your phone if it's something that tends to happen at a certain time to remind you to think about doing something differently, or even to just remind you to check in with yourself. Going off the same example, you could set an alarm for when you typically get home from work that just says, hey, check in with yourself. Are you actually hungry? Do you want to eat something else? How about you go for a walk instead? Whatever it would be in the context of your situation. As another example, I use this to help me stop my habit of scrolling my phone first thing when I woke up. I realized I had this pattern where when I went to grab my phone to turn off my alarm, I would immediately unlock it and then open Instagram and start scrolling. And I wanted to change that. Now, I could have just gone and bought an alarm to where I didn't even have to touch my phone at all, but that's not what I did. So instead, I brought a lot of attention and awareness to the fact that I wanted to not be on my phone in the morning. And then when I would wake up and turn off my alarm and notice myself unlocking my phone and starting to go for Instagram, I would pause and get myself to go open the weather app instead, because you're not really going to scroll on the weather app. But the goal was to just not use my phone at all in the morning. So I had it in mind when I went to grab my phone to turn the alarm off to not unlock my phone, just not go to any app. And I wouldn't do it every morning, but as time went on, it got more and more frequent to where I didn't use my phone at all in the mornings. And again, it doesn't just have to be with your habits and your actions and your behaviors. This goes for your responses and how you think about things as well. When you notice yourself going down a negative thought spiral or starting to ruminate, you can do the same thing where you pause and interrupt that pattern by doing something else. And the awareness is just such a huge piece. Just having that awareness of your patterns and what patterns you want to change, and then also awareness in the moments where you catch yourself and go, okay, I told myself, when I start doing this, I actually want to do this instead. When I notice myself going, okay, I planned for the gym, but I really don't feel like it, and I usually just go sit on the couch, I actually want to get up and go and do something, whether that's go for a walk or actually go to the gym. And do that over and over and over until that's the person that you become. You're putting in the reps until you become the person who goes to the gym even when you don't feel like it. Until you become the person who goes for a walk when you get home from work instead of going and grabbing chips. I think it is so helpful to just see and know that you can change. This concept really helped me reframe things. It helped me have more compassion for myself and helped me have a better understanding of my own thoughts and behaviors, and instead of making judgments about them, I could go, oh, okay, my brain is just traveling the path it is most used to. And it may take a little extra effort to not do the thing that is my normal go-to, but I want to start putting in the reps to create this new pathway instead. I want to make this my new norm instead. And I'm just mentioning that because it has been such a useful mindset trick for me, and so hopefully it is helpful for you too. I truly believe that having a better understanding of how our brains work helps us have so much more compassion for ourselves and helps us cultivate the tools that will help us change in the ways that we want to. So I have a whole series of how to work with your brain. If you liked this video, if you liked this information, and if it's a topic that you want to dive into a little bit deeper, then I highly recommend checking those videos out. Let me know in the comments what is one habit that you would like to change, and thank you so much for staying to the end of the video. I hope you have a fabulous day, and I will see you in the next one.